Chapter 96. Game. Start. The sealed classroom was a place that even Chen Ge did not want to stay in for long, but Fei Yuliang and Zhu Jianing entered it easily. There was a weird smell in the air. Entering the room was like going underwater. There was an inexplicable pressure pressing down on them, causing their breathing to become rather uneven. "Yuliang, should I wait for you outside?" The classroom was darker than the corridor. Zhu Jianing, who stood behind Fei Yuliang, had a frightened grimace on his face, and his forehead was covered with sweat. "What did we promise each other before entering the haunted house? We said we'd never abandon each now, but now you're already giving up?" Fei Yuliang was getting increasingly agitated. The uniforms that littered the room were not unlike the props that were used in scary movies. For some reason, he felt apprehensive about going near them. Zhu Jianing did not notice that his teammate's confidence had been shattered. He whispered from behind him, "Where do you think the haunted house's worker will be hiding? Will they jump up from underneath the uniforms?" Not clear, but they would normally do something like that. Fei Yuliang nudged his way to the lectern. He gripped his fists as he walked down the rows of tables, but nothing scary happened. "It does not seem like there's anyone hiding here." "But if there's no one hiding here, why waste so many resources to create such a large and detailed set? There is what looks like blood writing carved onto the tables, and these old uniforms were purposely left in the room." Zhu Jianing glanced behind him. "Furthermore, the door opened on its own earlier like it was inviting us to come in. It was probably the wind." Fei Yuliang turned to glare at Zhu Jianing. "If you have time to mumble this nonsense, come and help me look for the hidden mechanism or trick. Don't be mad, I'm just helping you analyze the situation." Zhu Jianing headed in the other direction of the room. Due to his large body, when he walked past one of tables, he accidentally knocked one of the uniforms to the floor. He did not mind it and did not seem intent on picking it up. He stepped on the uniform and continued to walk until he reached the classroom's back door. "There is indeed nothing worth getting scared over. I was expecting something to pounce at me when I passed the tables." Zhu Jianing's voice faded out. He turned and realized that the classroom had reverted to its original state. "When I walked down the row, I remember knocking into one of the uniforms. Yuliang, did you pick it up from the floor?" "A uniform that fell to the floor? How come I didn't notice it?" Fei Yuliang stood at the other end of the classroom, a distance of several tables away. "Was I imagining it?" Zhu Jianing walked back up the row. He stood beside the table that was situated at the center of the room. "I remember it was this uniform that fell to the floor." He picked the uniform up and waved it once. A weird odor drifted out from it. It smelled like rotten fish. "This is weird." Zhu Jianing dropped the uniform onto the table and squatted down to inspect the table and chair for hidden mechanisms. He shook the table, and everything seemed normal. Just as he was about to move on, the sound of marbles came from inside the drawer. "There's something inside?" Zhu Jianing bent down and leaned into the mouth of the drawer. The dark drawer was stuffed with test papers and textbooks. Why was there the sound of marbles? There's hidden compartment inside this drawer? He looked into the darkness and reached in to pull out the papers. He only pulled out the first one when he saw two round eyes staring right at him from behind the paper. "Fuck!" The sudden scare caused Zhu Jianing, who was half squatted, to stumble back and knock the two tables behind him out of position. "What's wrong?" The commotion shocked Fei Yuliang, who was also in the room. "There's someone inside the drawer." Zhu Jianing tried to crawl up from the floor, but his limbs failed him. His face was drained of blood. "Have you lost your mind? How can a person fit inside a drawer?" Fei Yuliang cursed as he went to help his teammate. "It's probably some kind of prop." He pulled out the papers and textbooks from inside the drawer and dropped them onto the floor. "Take a look. Don't be such a scaredy cat. There's nothing inside." After 10 seconds to calm himself down, Zhu Jianing finally climbed up from the floor. "But I really saw a pair of eyes. I'm not lying. I swear on my life." "Even if that's true, it's just a trick of the haunted house. Why are you so scared?" Fei Yuliang was not that scared to begin with, but what Zhu Jianing said did unsettle him a little. "Fine. Let's leave this room for now." The pair escaped in a hurry, leaving behind a trail of chaos. "Do we need to continue?" Zhu Jianing asked. Looking at the corridor that seemingly had no end, his heart was quivering. You're giving up in less than 5 minutes? We're here to ruin this place, not to do promotion for this haunted house. Fei Yuliang had half a mind to kick Zhu Jianing. Get a hold of yourself. Why are you acting all scared like a little girl? How are you going to answer to your muscles? Then he continued to move forward. Even though Zhu Jianing was afraid, it would be worse to be abandoned or labeled a traitor of Qingguang's studio, so he powered on. As he moved forward, he looked over his shoulder. When he saw the door to the sealed classroom slowly open again, he quickly caught up to Fei Yuliang and hissed, "Let's go! It feels like something is coming out from that classroom!" The pair ran forward in a hurry. They ignored the toilet and arrived at the first junction. Just how big is this set? There's even a choice of paths. Zhu Jianing had completely given up, and Fei Yuliang was frowning deeply. He loved scary movies and had visited many haunted houses in his life, but this was the first time he had encountered such a haunted house. They had not seen any haunted house workers in ghost costumes, but the feeling of fear refused to leave. The longer they remained, the stronger that feeling became. In the haunted houses that he visited in the past, he could still see the ghosts, and with the appearance of the ghosts, he would feel much better because all those ghosts were actors hired by the haunted house. It told him that the place was fake. It was all a human creation. However, the haunted house he was in that day had completely upended his preconception of haunted houses. There were no actors so far, but it had managed to create an inexplicable feeling of suspenseful fear, like something incredibly scary might happen at any moment. Let's try this way. The corridor narrowed as Fei Yuliang and Zhu Jianing headed toward the female dormitory. The front few rooms were not scary, and their emotions slowly relaxed as the fear surrounding their hearts slowly disappeared. Then they entered the room with the Pen Spirit game. In the female bedroom that was preserved like a crime scene, 4 chairs stood side by side, and several pieces of white paper as well as a ballpoint pen that was glued together with tape sat on one of the chairs. Chapter 97. The Rampaging Pen Spirit. This bedroom feels different from the rest, Zhu Jianing commented at the door. The man seemed like he was about to run at any moment. It has that escape-the-room feel. The clues to the exit are probably hidden here as well, right? No idea. This is the first time I've visited a haunted house that gave its visitors such a great degree of freedom. The boss sure is confident that no accidents will happen to his customers. Fei Yuliang walked to the chairs and picked up a random piece of white paper. On it was written, "When will I die? How will I die? Who will be the next to die?" This looks like the Pen Spirit game, but... Fei Yuliang turned to look at the ballpoint pen on the chair. Isn't this pen a bit too unconventional? Does it contain some kind of hidden mechanism? Zhu Jianing also walked over to hold the pen in his palm. He pressed on it for several times and almost broke the pen. It seems like a normal pen to me. Do you still remember what the haunted house boss said before we came in? There are 4 scenarios in the haunted house, and we have to experience them all before we can get the clues to the exit. That's right. The clues are hidden in the 4 small scenarios. Let's take a closer look around. In my experience, there's probably a key or paper note hidden inside this bedroom. The bedroom was small, and the pair searched every corner but came up with nothing. This haunted house is not that easy to unlock, and the design are incredibly detailed. Fei Yuliang placed the paper on the table. 3 of them had writing on, but 1 was left blank. Does this mean that we have to play the Pen Spirit game at least once before we can get the answer? Playing the Pen Spirit game inside a haunted house doesn't sound like a good idea. Zhu Jianing was flustered after reading the writing on the sheets of paper. Of the 4 scenarios, this one seems the simplest. If you don't want to do this, we'll need to go back to that classroom. Would you prefer that? Fei Yuliang waved his hand impatiently. Plus, do you really think there is a pen spirit in this world? Get over here. We'll try it once. And if it doesn't work, we'll leave. Fei Yuliang felt something was off, and he felt weirdly uncomfortable, like something was grasping his heart. Zhu Yuliang unwillingly walked toward Fei Yuliang. They stood on opposite sides of the chairs. But I don't know how the game works. Don't worry, I've seen many movies about the pen spirit. I've even tried it out a few times at home. It's just a trick and can be scientifically explained. Fei Yuliang straightened the pen and hovered it over the single paper that was empty. Cross your fingers over mine and grab the pen tightly. Okay. Zhu Jianing squatted down beside the chair and did what he was told. Now what? Just be quiet. Fei Yuliang wrote down yes and no on the white paper. When the bedroom became completely quiet, he started to chant, Pen Spirit, you are my spirit from my previous life, and I am your spirit in this life. If you are with us, please draw a circle on the paper. As he finished, a cold blast of wind suddenly shook the half-open door of the bedroom. The dilapidated door slowly opened to reveal the empty and dim corridor. Zhu Jianing shivered and shrunk involuntarily into the room. Stop moving. Fei Yuliang stared at the sharp end of the pen, his body frozen like a statue. The chilling wind streamed through the bedroom. The paper on the floor fluttered like an invisible hand was flipping through them. The temperature dropped, and coldness seeped up from their ankles. When someone is asked to hold the same position under a highly stressful situation, one's senses would be heightened. This was not unlike a form of torture for the pair who was in the middle of the Pen Spirit game. The decrepit bedroom seemed to turn darker, and the dirtied bedsheet moved in the wind like something was crawling out from underneath the bed. 10 minutes later, the pair's hands, which hung in midair, started to tremble, and a series of dots started to appear on the paper. Zhu Jianing could not help but ask, has the Pen Spirit arrived? He could not withstand this kind of tense atmosphere. Many movies set the time for Pen Spirit to appear after 10 minutes. If there's no reaction within 10 minutes, it means that the game has failed. But this is a made-up rule. Often people think that the Pen Spirit has arrived, but in reality, it is merely a psychological effect, Fei Yuliang said to calm his teammate. This place is one of the 4 scenarios mentioned by the boss. We'll try to follow his rules for now and see what kind of tricks he can play on us. As he finished, the ballpoint pen in their hands moved. It was a slight movement, but both of them felt it. Was that you? Both asked at the same time, and they managed to see the shock registered on the other person's face. It wasn't me, Zhu Jianing denied in a hurry. He had completely recovered from the fear brought on by the pair of eyes, and now this happened. He was in a highly tense state. Yuliang, do you think the real Pen Spirit has arrived? Don't be silly. The Pen Spirit game utilizes the game's format and the environment to create psychological pressure. The elongated time of maintaining a constant posture will cause the pen to appear like it has moved on its own, even though it is actually the result of our bodies reacting to the environmental and physiological stimulus, Fei Yuliang stated in a tone that sounded like he was persuading himself. Our subconscious imagines that the pen has moved and it has influenced our conscious mind. However, as he finished, the pen moved again, and it was very obvious this time. The pair looked at each other before both turned toward the paper in unison. The little dots on the paper were connected by a line to form an irregular circle. Fuck! It's really here! Zhu Jianing's first reaction was to pull his hand back, but he was stopped by Fei Yuliang. Whether or not it is the real Pen Spirit, we have to continue this game. Why? If it is the real Pen Spirit, if we end the game without sending it off, we'll be cursed by the spirit until we die. If it is fake, then there is no reason for us to be afraid, and everything is just a trick arranged by the boss to scare us. Then what shall we do next? Try to ask it some questions and then send the Pen Spirit away, Fei Yuliang said calmly. What kind of questions we should ask? Questions like the ones written on the other paper? Zhu Jianing pointed at the pieces of paper that littered the floor. That is a trap. We must not ask the Pen Spirit questions that are related to death. Try to ask some random questions. Random questions. Yes, let me try. Fei Yuliang gripped Zhu Jianing's hand tightly. After a pause, he shushed Zhu Jianing and he muttered softly, Pen Spirit, can you tell me the name of my future wife? To Fei Yuliang's surprise, when he finished the question, the wind inside the bedroom suddenly stopped blowing, and an insurmountable pressure started to expand from behind him. The pen in their hands quivered violently, and soon 3 words appeared on the white paper. You will die!